What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Johnny I Pro Show. I have here no other than the young lion, Bryce Hansen. Welcome again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Johnny.
Of course, I got to say now, the first ever episode we did live in studio, you were the guest. Now, welcome here, brand new spot. You were the guest as well.
And like I said before, the worst guest to have at the start of a new series.
No pressure, no pressure. Yeah. No pressure at all. Now, I got to say now, before we get into it and stuff, now, like, what do you have coming up?
I have my first ever trip to Japan for Pro Wrestling Noah.
Wow, in February. We're going to get into that for sure. Now I got to let the fans know and stuff. Now, what got you into wrestling?
So I was never like a true wrestling fan growing up as a kid or anything, believe it or not. But so I was working at a local gym in like the small town outside of Kitchener-Waterloo, like I was just saying to you. And so a school opened up in the gym, and so they just needed some local guys to train there and try to get like more people going through it. And so they said, "Hey Bryce, do you want to try to be a professional wrestler?"
And here we are.
Exactly. Now here we are.
Now, so did you watch wrestling at all growing up?
I watched bits and pieces of it, like we were saying off camera, like bringing up Santino and stuff. Yes. Like I watched Santino as a kid, and like I knew about Brian Pillman and like Stone Cold, but I was never like a diehard.
No, who are your favorites? If you could just choose like your favorite wrestler.
Brian Pillman. I couldn't get over like him wearing the Hammer Strength shirt and pulling the gun out on Austin and that sort of thing. His
character was just so like ruggedy. It was just different. Yeah. It was just different.
Awesome.
Now I gotta ask now, like the moment that you knew that you wanted to become a wrestler, like when did that just click in? It's like I want to become a wrestler.
It was probably like it was my first pro wrestling practice, I'd say. The first ever Tuesday I went in, and so my trainer was Tyson Dukes, and so he's like same height as me, same kind of build, and I was like, oh man, this guy's pretty cool. Like, he's badass.
Now, how did you get in with training with Tyson?
So he was just like, I guess him and the gym owner had a few connections. And so Ty's school actually shut down during COVID. And so then when COVID and stuff was kind of ending, he's like, would you want to come and train guys here? And he's like, sure. So then that's how it kind of all came to be.
Good. Like, how about the experience? Like, is there like any advice that he gave you that you still take on to this day?
Just everything. Just making wrestling just like an art form. I try to take wrestling as seriously as I can be, almost to a downfall. But the professionalism that he taught me and just the art that pro wrestling is something I carry with me.
Now, how would you describe like your overall like style, the young lion? How would you describe your style?
I really love strong style wrestling. I love Japanese wrestling. It's a dream for me to be going to Japan. And so getting wrestling the way that I do and going over there to do that is awesome, and that's the kind of style that I like.
Yeah, it's gonna be something that you remember forever. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I gotta ask now you're so familiar with the Japanese wrestling stuff, but I gotta ask, especially you're gonna see, why don't they cheer during the match? I don't get it. Like, you don't really notice that it's so quiet.
It's so like, it's insane because Japanese people are so polite and they're so respectful that it's like they'd rather like applaud you, and they understand that what you're doing is like an art almost. So they're seeing it as like, not like, oh my God. Yeah. Which they do get to like, oh my God, when you do something crazy freaking land on your brain. But yeah, I think they just appreciate it a lot, and they just applaud you for that.
Or like your typical like North American crowd, they're like the holy they're just completely different.
Yeah. I don't think there's nearly as much beer at these shows.
We really see like even the highlights too as well. Obviously, you know of like Kenny Omega, all that stuff. Like usually like they put on shows like Ospreay when he goes there, but the crowds are just like they're not like it's crazy. They see match of the year type stuff, but it's not really, they're not into it. But I mean, obviously, you probably when you're gonna be the performer, you're gonna be making that go on your face.
I hope so.
Now, how did you come up with the name Young Lion? Where did that come about?
The Young Lion. Well, it sound like a broken record, but it's all about Japanese wrestling, and I was just so obsessed with like the young boy lifestyle and the Young Lion system that New Japan and that sort of thing has, where it's like they're trainees that go in, they're a young lion now, so then they're only able to do this and this, and they have to work on their selling, work on all this sort of thing. So I was like, well, I can relate to that. And then I'm like, oh well, I have a mullet, so then I'm like, oh, little lion's mane.
Perfection. Like I said, let's go down like you're so young, but you still have your defining moments, your matches. I went through the whole catalog, impressive. I gotta say now, first Psycho Mike Smash Wrestling. Yes. Like, tell me that experience versus him.
Well, I remember I was just going to that show just to help out. I mean, any chance that I could, I was going to shows and just setting up the ring and shaking hands with whoever I can get in contact with. And they asked if I had my stuff, and I was like, yep. And then they're like, okay, you're in the Body Slam Invitational, and Psycho Mike is gonna slam you, and you're gonna tap out mid body slam.
And his character's like, if you watch him, it's just like something different. Yeah. He's like psycho. He's psycho.
Yeah.
I said now, Chen Valley Wrestling as well. You're obviously involved in a 3-way tag match, like for the championship there. Like, how was that? Like the experience for there?
That was probably the craziest match I had done in the beginning of my career, because it was like a TLC match as well. It was, I'm like,
they called it. Didn't they call it doors? Something else like doors.
Yeah, I don't think they couldn't afford the tables, so yeah, a DLC match, I guess. But I remember just like showing up and I'm like, oh, this is my life now. I dropped out of school for this, so it's like I'm in Sarnia now.
Like I see that going through it says doors ladders match. Like that's crazy. I didn't watch the highlights, but did you actually get thrown through?
I got whipped from one end of the ring to the other turnbuckle by Jax Williams, and so there was a chair set up in like the middle and top turnbuckle, right? So when he whipped me, I tried to just hit it as hard as I can, and so it shot out and then just UFO'd into the crowd almost.
Do you like watching your match like back all the time when you're done, or?
Yes and no. If I'm really like stoked on myself and I'm really like, high on myself, I'll watch them. But most of the time I'm like, oh man, I can't really watch them. I'm like, oh, I could have done this or this better.
How about like your promos? How about your promos and stuff? Like, say whenever you have the opportunity to do promos, do you watch it? Like sometimes when I watch my things, I wouldn't say it's cringe, but it's like, like people are like great, but it's like okay, that 10 seconds is enough. That's it. That's
cringe for me. I'm a cringe lord when it comes to talking, so I'll try my best not to. I mean, that's like the thing. Like everyone, especially in wrestling, they think like promos and that sort of thing, you have to be like Hulk Hogan and have like a catchphrase and that sort of thing. But you watch a lot of it now, and it's just kind of like the personalities most people have, and I'm more attracted to that. So I'll just talk as myself.
Who do you think right now, as in promo wise, is just like the great, or even back then, if you could pick like one wrestler that's just like promos on point? Ooh. Do you look at anybody for like inspiration?
I'm thinking about it now.
Because you said the whole Pillman type vibe, but he was very
hearing the stories about Pillman, how he would like read dictionaries on the road and that sort of thing to extend his vocabulary. Like I don't know if you ever heard those stories. Like the Stone Cold would say that when they were riding together, he would read like dictionaries and different like thesauruses to expand his vocabulary. So like I'll kind of look at Pillman, because the way that he would talk, even like at WCW and that sort of thing, it was just so unique and so different compared to the, say your prayers, eat your vitamins type talk.
It's just different, yeah, exactly. It's very modern day-ish, because that's such a golden era, like, the macho, all that extra stuff, right? Then you got like different, now you got like the acknowledge me, tribal chief stuff. It's like a whole different thing. Now I got to say, now your 5-way match at Smash. 5-way, it's like that's a lot. That's a lot. Like, how was that match overall with 5 different, like you including the 4 other guys?
It was, that was probably like one of my first bigger matches. I mean, being in Toronto in like the Rec Room, I'm pretty sure that match happened.
Very cool venue, by the way.
Very cool venue. Yeah. And just, I don't know, it was such a payoff for me outside of the whole wrestling aspect of it, because that was the sum of me tearing up and tearing down and putting up these rings and that sort of thing. And the match itself was anarchy to try to put together, because it's just, it's 5 guys with 5 different ideas of how things could go. So
it's like it's a whole lot of this and that type of say. Now, you as a young up and comer and stuff, when you talk to the other guys, do you ever have a good say in that, or
when it comes to putting
the match,
matches?
put a match together, or you just got to really take on what the veterans say? But you could also put your input in, but
it depends on who you're putting the match together. I find sometimes some people take themselves a little bit more seriously when it comes to like their ideas and the way they think that their philosophy on how like a match should go, but some other guys, and it honestly, I find that like the more that the guy's done in his past, the more they're open to cooler ideas or different ideas, I should say. But I'll try to put in like my little piece of, oh, well, that would be kind of cool if we did this, and it led into that. And, and an example of that, and I'm sorry, I'm on a tangent now.
Oh, cool. I love it. We love it.
But so this guy I know, Wild Stallion at Demand Lucha, so he wrestled Trent Seven. And so I was there watching this happen, right? And so Wild Stallion's basically saying to Trent, like, hey, man, how about, I do diving headbutt and you kick out, but then I go up for a moonsault, and how about you hit me and then you do a dragon suplex from the top rope, and I'll do a backflip out of it. And then, so on and so forth. That happens, and 5 other things that I hurt myself on, but
and then it just goes on like
that.
I guess now your GCW triple threat match, Jax Williams obviously and Robbie Reckless. Like that was great. Like tell me how that was. Okay. I seen some highlights. That was like,
man, you went down the cage match list for this.
I did my Nardwar research here.
That was in Orangeville, Ontario, about 40 minutes or so away from my hometown. And so showed up, didn't know what I was doing, as like most of those like smaller type shows where, you know, they run off of like the Comic-Con that they did earlier that afternoon and hoping that people come back for it. But so me, Jackson, and Robbie come up with this match, and it was like 40, 50 people, and I'm killing myself in this thing, just doing all I can, and those guys are both gems, and I love working with them.
I love it. Now, Hammerlock as well, that promotion there, you won your first championship.
Yes.
Tell me that, like, just win your first championship, just like, doesn't matter where it's from, like, you just see like right there the belt, like, how was that?
It was like, it was climbing the mountain for me, especially in that company, because that was something that Tyson, my trainer, actually, he helped create, Hammerlock. So getting the opportunity to wrestle for them and then eventually, you know, hold the title, that was a big moment for me.
Yeah, something good for sure. Now, I got to say now, C4, I seen as well as a 5-on-5 tag match. We said before, 5 is a lot. There's 10 now.
Yeah.
Like, how is it?
That blew. We did not know what we were doing until probably 5 minutes until we were going out there, because you think 5 people is bad to kind of brainstorm with, 10 is the worst.
It's a whole lot for sure. Now, I gotta say now, Destiny World Wrestling stuff is becoming there. It's like becoming great. Fight Network, et cetera, et cetera. Now, your debut there, how was that, Destiny Wrestling? Especially Don Call Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Destiny is like one of my favorites. It was a really good place for me, and I was really happy to get that opportunity with, you know, George the Iceman. He was in my corner, and he approached me about some ideas that they wanted to do with me and that sort of thing. And yeah, I feel like I'm getting into the politics of it now a bit, because it's like...
No, I mean, like I said as well too, you know, obviously he's involved in TNA and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If there's somebody that can vouch for you, I say hands down one of the best in Canada in general. Like, I've been saying it from when I first met you. Like just one of the best guys, hands down. I gotta say now, I saw you fought Tarek at Smash.
Yeah.
It was smashing. I gotta say, like, that match, kind of corny there, but that match was like, that was insane. Like, you guys were giving it to each other, like literally, like just facing. And he's one of the, like, greats as well in Canada as well. But you got obviously so much potential. You're so young. Like, how was that against him? Like, one of the best in Canada.
That was one of the fun. Like, in recent time, one of my favorite matches in a while. That was hands down, like you were there.
Yeah.
You saw it. Like, it's so like with Tarek, you got to be so intense and so athletic with everything.
Yeah.
And I was just so happy with that match. That was one of the few that I was like stoked on a little bit.
Yeah, and the crowd was just like, and I said as well, like the venue itself, like the rec room, and the crowd was just like into it.
Yeah.
That was just like, that was something different. And who was the headliner? I believe it was Swagger.
Yeah.
Swagger was a headliner as well. Like
Psycho Mike.
Yeah, Psycho Mike. And the whole thing with like Swagger and stuff, like his whole character, this and that. Like, are you a fan of the I Love This Hat?
I laughed pretty hard in the back when they body slammed the hat onto him.
Yeah.
That was pretty
That's
funny.
like something different. Now, I guess as well, you obviously defeated as well Fuerza. Gabriel, like that is like huge.
Yes.
Huge, especially like the way it's just like he's like so like people are just always highly speak about him and stuff. Like, how did that match just come all about?
So actually, I was supposed to wrestle Ethan Page at that show for NSW, and what happened was Ethan Page ended up getting signed by WWE.
Yeah,
so,
NXT, yeah.
you know, tough luck for Bryce, but Fuerza, I was more than happy with that replacement, you know, and unfortunately, it was Canada Day, and it sucked getting to the show.
Yeah.
Because I remember it took me like 3 hours, and it'd usually take like an hour and a half.
Traffic.
Yeah, traffic was terrible, and then, you know, everyone's out. So then it wasn't like the best kind of draw for the show, but it was so much fun wrestling Fuerza, and I'd do it again.
But how does that like that feel like? Because he's not a big guy.
Yeah.
He's like small and stuff. Like, how does that feel like? Especially when you go different. Like, obviously, you know, there's like boxing, there's MMA, like there's the weight classes. But for wrestling, it doesn't matter. You could be like Yokozuna versus like Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. How's that adjusting for you?
I remember when we first sat down to start talking, he's like, well, you know, you watch Chris Benoit, I watch Eddie Guerrero. Just like, so then he's like, this will be easy.
Yeah, this was just
yeah.
easy. I want to thank Benoit and Guerrero. And I got to say, now, you're a part of as well as the Maple Leaf Wrestling that just came back as well.
Yeah.
How is that like? Because that's pretty prestige. That is prestige there.
Funny story about that. So that was a weird weekend for me. So I was I think pretty concussed for that weekend. And so I just drove down the Friday morning at like frickin' 7 a.m. to make it for the setup, because you have to set so much up at those kinds of shows. Like, I remember doing like even the format like Impact and that sort of thing, like doing the setup for those, like those sucked. So we're getting there, we're setting up the ring and all of that, and it was like the end of the night or whatever, and I get a text from Scott asking if I'd be around tomorrow, and I'm like, yeah, and it was, you know, want to use you, and so I got the opportunity to do one of the dark matches, which, you know, only a handful of unsigned Canadians were on that show, and I was really happy to be a part of that small fraction, even if it was the dark match, you know what I mean?
Especially getting a call from Scott himself, like how was that, like surreal for sure? Like
so much, it was so rewarding, because I've been going to the Can-Am wrestling school as well, as much as I can. You know, it's like a 3.5 hour drive for me from where I am, but you know, leave at 3 in the afternoon and get back at, you know, 2 a.m. from class, and I love it.
But it's the sacrifice, right? Like it's the sacrifice, like, especially like not that many people know about like all the hard work, the dedication, the missed, say, birthdays, parties, family functions, whatever it is. But obviously sometimes they're quick to judge on a match, but they don't really know the sacrifice that you put behind that, right? It's just like there's a lot of sacrifice that go behind it.
Yeah. I'm sure you understand that as well, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
and
of course. Like, it's like you got to take, like, a lot of people don't see, like, they just see, like, say perhaps like an upload go up or whatever it may be. They scroll through it or whatever it is, but they don't understand like all that hard work, the dedication. I went through archives for you.
Yeah.
Like how that, like, you know, just like the homework behind everything basically just come up, especially your case. Like, it's like you sacrifice your body legit.
Yeah.
Like you sacrifice your body. So it's like, kudos to you. Like, you know, it's like, that's why I call you like one of the best, especially at what you do. Now let's go right back to the archives here now. Alpha, you're in a 7-way elimination match.
Yes.
Yeah, like let's run through that match right there.
Oh man, let's see if I can remember it. I got hit pretty hard in the head that time. Yeah, I got hit pretty. Was it that one? I don't even remember anymore. But another set up and tear down rings, and good things will come to you, because that's what happened to me. Luckily, Ethan Page and all the guys running it, they liked me, and I got the opportunity to wrestle with them. 7 guys is worse than 10 to put something together. Any multi-man match sucks sometimes to put together unless everyone's kind of in that same kind of groove. But I can't remember if it became. Did it say the order of eliminations? Because I remember Jose the Assassin, me and him started doing some stuff together, and yeah.
You probably got hit very hard.
I got hit pretty hard. This is ridiculous. I can't remember.
I was gonna say now, when I was also there in attendance, well, Demand Lucha, first Jody threat. I was there and just boom, dive right into the stands. We decided we'll get into that there, but like just like intergender, like just like that, it's a big thing now. It's like, remember back then, they're like, oh, like, you know, back then in wrestling, they're like, oh, you know, they whenever, like, say, McMahon or something would do something, they pan the camera off. Right now, they show everything. Like, doesn't matter. Like, how is that when you heard, like, you're going against Jody Threat? Well, she is a threat. Like, she's
a legit threat. Yeah. Like, Jody's amazing and such a great wrestler. And I would wrestle her any day of the week, because I had so much fun. And it was one of those, like, like, you know how they kind of have to baby the intergender sometimes, and you know how it used to be where it's just, you know, I can't even explain it.
Yeah, exactly.
But like with Jody, it's completely different, because, you know, me and her she's freaking jacked.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, Jody, we're just gonna have a regular match. It's like,
and the movesets were crazy. Like, what? How'd you guys come about that time? I remember, I think one was like a suplex top rope, and then after like another one, like she dove legit through the crowd into the seats. It was a mess. It was just an absolute, like, how did you guys come about?
It was something. My whole train of thought is sometimes just going, all right, something. How about we do something on the floor? I suplex you into the fans, and they move, and then I'll go for a drop kick, and then basically do a backflip and land ass over tits, basically. And yeah, I'm insane sometimes when it comes to putting these things together. But yeah, like, it's me and Jody are both crazy.
Now the post fights, like, how, like, I gotta say now, like, I hit somewhere here, I'm feeling the next day. Okay, that's me. Like, how do you feel the next day going through that? Like, is it like, or you like, suck it up, like, we're going back?
There's some pretty tough drives. I remember one weekend in particular, I hurt my knee in this match, and so I slept in my car that night. So I drive from Toronto to Mississauga to find a safe parking lot to sleep in, and then I drove from Mississauga to Ottawa, and then back from Ottawa back to Mississauga, slept in my car, drove from Mississauga to North Bay.
What?
And then I drove all the way home and then slept as much as I could. And then I had to go to Alpha One. And then, yeah.
That's a lot. Like, what's the longest road trip that you just drove in general for wrestling? Like how many hours?
14.
14?
14 hours one way. From where I live to St. Paul, Minnesota.
Minnesota, okay,
Yeah.
Wow. Now, do you remember, like, if right now we go down a rabbit hole, do you remember your first match?
Yes, my first match was against Chili Brown and Hammerlock Pure Wrestling. And so I didn't know that I was having this match until probably 3 weeks before. And so Tyson actually, he came up with the whole thing for us, thankfully, because, that's kind of leading the blind with the two of these guys. And so it was freaking, the match was so awesome. I had so much fun, and it was kind of like a nail in the coffin of, I'm going to be a professional wrestler.
Then you love it. Just got the addiction.
Yeah.
Now, we keep talking about as well, like you say, like you got to do your dues, like set up the ring, set up the chairs, this and that. Is that what just comes with it? Like when you just start off, you got to like pay your dues?
Yes and no. I feel like some people don't really get it as much as others do. I feel like it's kind of any sort of business. If you look at like some guys, like I don't know if you're familiar with like Jesse Itzler, and like when he's like, you got to sit in front of you got to go where all these people are if you want to be one of those people.
Of course.
So that's what I just tried to do. I tried to kind of use whatever entrepreneurship brain and forward that to wrestling. Some people just don't get that. They can just kind of think like it'll happen to them and that sort of thing. But you can't really sit around and wait for these things to happen. You have to kind of go and go after it.
Exactly. Well said. Now, is there anybody that you look up to for like, maybe from inspiration or just like somebody you could like on the call type of thing? Like, do you have like, is there any wrestlers like
Tyson? Even though that he's retired in that now, I'll text him whenever I have like an issue in wrestling, or if something big's coming up and I'm like, hey man, I need your advice, because anything that I want to do, he's done.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like my pillar of advice.
Exactly. Now I gotta say, did you always have like the love for like Japanese wrestling, like the whole culture and stuff? Or now that you're getting the opportunity, you're looking so much into the culture now, what to expect, this and that?
Yes and no. Since I was not like a true wrestling fan, I just kind of discovered all these different things in wrestling on my own. So I went from like watching just Bret Hart and just Owen Hart to then being like, oh, Owen Hart in Japan? What's this? And then going from like, oh, Owen Hart and Juice and Thunder Liger, and then like, oh, whoa, who's Tiger Mask? And then then you go down the rabbit hole of Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid, and then Dynamite Kid to Chris Benoit, and then you know what I mean?
Legendary stuff.
Yeah.
Right there, you all said right there too. Also as well, when I interviewed Brett, I did my little archives, as you see. Like also I discovered as well in the '82 he went to Japan because WWF had like a they had back then, was really cool to read about, like a young legends league. So basically, like say if you're in the mix, like you're still a part of WWF, but you're gonna go to Japan in like a tournament type of vibes. Like they made him go to tournament and stuff. He said he was a jobber or whatever. Like it makes sense because just starting off, but it was just like a tournament type of vibe. But it's cool that they did that even back then to now. And he loved Japan. He said that was like one of his greatest moments or whatever. So I'm pretty sure like the next Bret the Hitman Hart, you never know. Like in foodie wise, obviously you're a foodie to get like jacked. Obviously, like are you like in culture, like are you with the culture of like Japanese? Do you love sushi or this and that? Like don't take this offensive, anyone.
Yeah.
I don't like sushi. I just don't like
Really?
I don't like sushi.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like sushi.
Not even like the veggie stuff?
I had the cucumber one before. I love fish. I'm Greek, so I love fish.
Okay.
But I just don't like the sushi. I just don't like sushi.
All right. I've looked into it because I got a little worried about how much protein there would be over there. So like it's just like these little tiny dishes, or even like the sushimi or whatever. I'm no expert on sushi either. I'll go to my local Loblaws and pick up the California rolls for sure. But yeah, I got to do a little bit more research on that.
Are you gonna hit up like the whole like what's that? There's a restaurant, like a famous restaurant.
Oh, Ribera?
Yeah. Are you and you get the jacket and all that stuff? Yeah. That's what I mean. But they all get like the jackets and all that stuff, etc. Like I was wondering, like obviously if you're like the Undertaker or Top Dog, you're getting that for free. But I always wonder, like everybody goes in, they leave with the jacket. Is that like
I'm not sure how it works. I mean, it would be kind of funny if you're assuming that you get this jacket and you try to leave with it, and then you get footed with the bill of your steak plus the Ribera. Yeah.
And it'll be like in the U.S. So now let's talk about your Japan trip. You're going to Noah, you said, right? Like how? So like, tell me the whole breakdown of this.
So it's so weird. It's so it's not how you would expect the whole thing to come about. So Caitlin Diamond, who's from Canada. She reached out to me, and so she's now living in St. Paul's, Minnesota, I'm pretty sure. And she runs Ironheart Pro, is the promotion. Plug Caitlin, I guess so. But so they were doing this thing called the Chosen One tryout. And so it was Sonny Ono and this guy named Tokyo Monster and Perry Saturn. And they were the judges. Perry, wow. So she was like, hey, Bryce, I don't know if you saw, like, we're doing this thing. If you'd be interested, like, please come. And so it's just her way of getting more people to come out to it. And so I messaged my friend and mentor, Chris Kurz. And so he was actually the short story. He was the guy that owned the gym and helped fund the wrestling school because he loved wrestling so much. So I was like, hey, Kurzy. And so he's an entrepreneur and that sort of thing. So he gets like the whole grind, and I'm like, hey man, what are you doing this weekend? And I was like, you want to go to Minnesota with me? And he's like, yeah. And so he's got like this big Sprinter van, and he has like a futon in it and like this chair. And he's like, let's go. And so me and him just hopped in his van and then drove from, Listowel, Ontario, all the way to Minnesota. I think we slept for like 4 hours in Detroit, or not even Detroit. It was like Battle Creek, and then drove the rest of the way. And then, we, I'm kind of going on a.
Oh, keep going. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
But yeah, anyways, we're in the car and that, and I'm thinking to myself as we get closer and closer, because this was the 14-hour drive I was talking about, and I'm thinking like, man, I'm going all this way, and it's like, imagine if I didn't win. I was like, imagine if this is like a work, like if I'm getting screwed.
It's like a joke.
Yeah. And so whatever day of the tryout happens, it's like 9 a.m. and just come in, set up the ring, and then they're like getting us to do all these drills, and I'm like, all right, like this is go time.
This is happening.
This is go time. I was like, all or nothing. And so I remember it was kind of an ego thing, but I was like, if they were asking us to do X amount of high knees, I was doing, 10, 15 more. If they were asking us to just do squats all in unison, I was trying to do 5 more than the guy in front of me and that sort of thing. And then it was, I was like, man, I was like, whoa, okay.
This is getting real. This is getting real.
And then, we do 2-minute matches and that sort of thing. And I remember Perry Saturn pulling me aside, and he's like, thank you. And he's like, thank you for doing, like, bumping properly and doing things properly. He's like, thank you. And like, I don't know if you watched a lot of Perry Saturn growing up, but he was like, he could work with anybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so hearing that from Perry Saturn himself, that was pretty awesome. And then Sonny Ono gets up, and he's like, all right, we pick the winner. And then he just looks down the list and he goes, number 5, Bryce. And then I'm just like, that's me. And then they're like, all right. And then they had a second place as well, or they had like another guy to win it with me, and his name's John from Texas. And so then they're like, John. And then so it's like me, this like 5'9" Canadian. And he's like 6'9". Monster, dude. And I'm like, okay. Like,
yeah, like, oh, but you just mentioned Perry Saturn. Like, remember back then, WCW legendary days, ECW legend. Mm-hmm. Then after when McMahon bought everybody, went W, like, he's a legend. Mm-hmm. For him to give you kudos like that, like, that's just mind-boggling. Yeah, like, yeah. Wow.
And so after when I win it, and it's like, okay, I guess I'm done here. And so we just kind of tore the ring down, and I was just trying to stretch out in that from being in the car. So like we're in this gym, so I'm just stretching in the middle of this gym, and like everyone's just kind of like looking at me like, what is this guy doing? And I'm like, okay.
I'm just Bryce. I'm just me, man. Yeah, I'm just me. Like, wow, how many people were like actually in that competition? Like, they're
25, 25-ish.
So they picked like the best of the best, like from like Canada, US.
Well, it was like open to any trained wrestler. So there was people there from like Chicago, people there from New York, people there from Florida. Like, so it was like everyone just kind of joined and more people from Texas. So there was like a big group of people.
Did you see anybody that stood on you like, wow, he's good? Like, or he's gonna like probably like.
There's this guy named from Texas. His name's Izzy James, and so he was just such a stand-up guy, and he was like so good at being him, and he understood how to be him in the ring that I was like, this guy's awesome. Yeah. And so I've been trying to get more people to like use him up here and that sort of thing. And like even Paragon, there's a guy named Paragon. He's the man. I remember he drove as well from Chicago to Minnesota, and like he was such a good brother and like kept tabs on me. He's like, hey man, like I just wanted to like check in, like if you're feeling tired, like no, you can pull over and that sort of thing. Like it's so rare to find those kinds of people
nowadays.
Yeah,
exactly. Like I always say, like as long as you do good, like good will come your way, and you're doing great. So congrats to you.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the whole thing about like it seems like an ongoing Minnesota thing. Are you gonna move there perhaps? Because you're always there so much.
you know, it kind of beats Canada in being cold, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it actually really that cold? Like cold
Yeah, it's pretty cold there. Like I remember talking to like some people just in like a Walmart, and I'm like, hey, is it usually like this warm here? And they're like, no, dude, like this is like summer. Like,
What are you looking forward to like in Japan? Obviously, you know their video game culture is amazing. Like it's crazy. Are you looking forward to like going like seeing things like that, or perhaps seeing like the big Transformers? Like you know, there's like my buddy went to Japan. He always tells me all these little stories and stuff. Like, are you a gamer yourself?
I'm terrible. I'm no gamer. I can never find the time to game as much as I'd love to. I'm probably just gonna, you know, gather a list of what my friends want and try to pick up whatever Pokemon stuff for them and whatever Transformer stuff.
Are you heading by yourself, or you're going with somebody else?
So that guy John, so we're leaving at the same time, but so he's gonna fly from Texas and I'm flying from Toronto, obviously, but I don't know like if the flights will line up around the same time. So
wow. And what can that lead up to now? Like Japan, like what does that lead up for you? Perhaps like, is there like if they told you perhaps, let's just say this, like New Japan Wrestling or whatever, like will you be like, is that what your final like stay? Would you obviously they offer you something, you will stay. But I mean, is that like your goal? Is that your goal while in Japan, like get noticed as much as possible and make it to like?
Yeah, I'd say that. I'm going to Japan is such an opportunity for me, not as just like a person to grow, but in a wrestler to grow, but it's also an opportunity to grow my stock as well.
Yes.
And so I'm really hoping that these 8 weeks that I spend in Japan, I can really try and make an impression. I have no idea what to expect while I'm over there, obviously, but I really hope I can do something great in that short time and then kind of bring it to Canada. And then, you know, they can kind of see like, oh, Bryce is here to stay, you know what I mean?
And you have the experience. You went to Japan. And also, you also as well, I believe you trained with Natalya.
Yeah.
Like you went to, was it Orlando or Florida?
It was just outside of Tampa.
Not that many people get invited to go there. That is how was that, like training with them?
It was, man, so much fun. Like Tyson Kidd, he does not get his flowers enough of how smart he is. And, you know, I'm sure Brett would say the same thing. And, you know, Natty, she's so intense and so awesome. And it was such a treat to be able to train with those people. I mean, it was a great opportunity for me and my friends to go and to learn from them. And it's rare that you find a group of people that are willing to travel that far and for a week, and while everyone's just trying to, you know, navigate regular life.
Yeah. How did you even get that invite?
So what happened was, TJ did what's called like an evaluation almost. So like we all got in gear at the Don Colov arena, and then it was like, you know, do these drills, do this, do that, and then he would just kind of like say like where we would be at. And so he was pretty he liked me and my friends. And so what actually happened was Miley, the wrestler,
oh yes, I remember her. Yes,
so she actually kept in contact with TJ and she got us the opportunity to go and train with them. And she was basically like, hey, you know, like when would it ever be possible for me and my friends to come and train at like the dungeon and that? And so she kind of set that whole thing up. And for that, I thank her a lot, because that was pretty awesome.
Is that like a program? Do you pay for, like, do they send you there, or you got to just take care of yourself?
So we took care of ourselves. Like we got it was kind of like a mini vacation as well. Because it was like, you know, we got the Airbnb as friends, and then we just kind of paid for our own flights, which luckily there was like, you know, a Spirit flight in Detroit.
Cheap,
so a lot of us just flew together, and then we got a rental car, and then we just all divvied up the cost by like 7 people. So like it's not that much by the end of it. And so
but it all works out now because you're heading to Japan.
Yeah.
I guess in this whole new thing now, obviously you're aware of it as well, like WWEID. Like obviously I looked into it and stuff. I remember the one time they're showing it at they did it at the Northern Crown.
Yeah,
I believe so. And I seen your name there, and I legit text other people and stuff like this, and I'm like, W, what is this? And they told me, they broke it down. I'm like, it's got to be Bryce. But then after you told me, I think I messaged you, and you're like, right away you're like, oh, I'm going to Japan. I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's I take Japan.
Yeah.
Like, so what is this? Like, I know it's like something about, I seen Triple H spoken on as well. It's like indies, like they take like top people from indies or whatever. But like, are they a part of the actual like I mean WBS, because in NXT I seen Zeta Steel But
Yeah.
she was there like on camera and stuff previously. They show like WID type of people. But I mean, like, what is this whole, break it down for us, because you probably know better than anybody else. What is this whole WID thing?
Well, I actually don't know much about it. From what I understand, that it's kind of like it's a prospect program. I think it would be similar to like other sports. So like if you're like a soccer player or whatever, and you know, a company wants to reach out to you and be like, hey, we want kind of like first dibs on you. We'll pay you X amount monthly so that you can make sure that, you know, you're getting the proper nutrition and proper, you know, stuff that you need to kind of level up as an athlete. And then so then it's kind of a way, and I'm not too sure about this and I don't want to get in trouble, but I think it's kind of a way to kind of cherry pick the rest. Yeah. Because then it's like, okay, well, we can pay you like $1,000 monthly, and then who knows, if a Japan reaches out to you, then it's like, nope, you're going to Orlando, brother. And let's talk about, or it's very like, you know, at the end of the day, it's a business. Yeah.
Right. As much as you love it, whatever it is, growing up or new to it, it's a business regardless. So it's like, and WB itself is like the mecca. Like, you know, it's the mecca. You have the AW, which is like, it's like, you know, it fluctuates back and forth. Then you have TNA, which is great and stuff. It's connected as well with like NXT, WWE. But I mean, like, WB it's the mecca of the mecca. It's like they always have the say at the final say regardless.
You can't even deny it now after, I don't know if you watched Raw.
Oh my goodness, Netflix. It's like gone, like, it's Hollywood. It's too good.
Yeah,
it was
it's
like
amazing.
Madness. Yeah.
Like, you can't beat WWE.
You can't. You just can't.
But it's one of those things too, and I remember hearing like Jericho talk about this on a podcast. Like, WWE isn't going anywhere.
No.
Like, you do not have to worry about WWE ever, you know, going belly up and, you know, out of money. Like, so why not take these other opportunities from different companies and just kind of grow? So then by the time you get there, then you're like, you can be a Rock or Austin and that sort of thing.
And the way it is, it's just like the like we said just recently, like it's gone Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, not besides, I mean, that's the first episode they had the red carpet, but just like the aesthetics and just like everything about it, like it just looked so. It didn't look like. It looked okay, it's wrestling, but it just looked too good.
Yeah, I know.
It was just way too good, and the way they had their matches and no commercials, just previews, like highlights, and then it was too good. And then they had NXT also did the same thing as well. NXT was great; they had The Rock there, and then the next yesterday, I believe SmackDown, they had like Cody, whatever. But Raw was just like, I remember Busted Open with Bubba Ray Dudley, the whole Busted Open cast. They even said as well, they said that was perhaps like better than WrestleMania. Yeah. I was like, really? They said just because the way it just looked, it was just too good. It was like, hopefully see you there one day.
I hope so.
Now, new year, new goals, as they say. Now, we know you're going to Japan. What are your goals for 2025?
My top goal right now is to just do the best I can while in Japan, and so hopefully I can then go back. Because, you know, I'm watching these other guys like these Americans like Starboy Charlie and like Titus Alexander. You know, they're doing more with Noah. And so they're doing like these multiple tours throughout the year. So I'm like, I think that's kind of my next level. So that's like my personal goal. Yeah.
Do you like the travel and everything that it puts on the toll on your body? Well, you're still young, but do you like the travel and all that extra stuff?
I love traveling.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I got a little travel bug in me.
I love it. If there could be now for you a dream match, potentially anybody from the past and present, the fans like love hearing this. Like, who would it be for you, past and present?
Past, it would be Kobashi.
Oh, wow.
That would be a great match, in my opinion. There's so many. It's everyone that I watch. And so like a Jushin Thunder Liger would be awesome. Liger would be amazing. And even like Marufuji present day Marufuji would be insane. I was watching some matches of him. It's just him beating up like the rookies and that sort of thing that they have. And I'm like, oh, that could be me.
Like that. So, and what is your favorite cheat meal? If you could have a cheat meal,
pizza.
I'm
a fiend for pizza.
Just cheese, man. Pepperoni.
Buffalo chicken pizza.
Oh, of course.
Buffalo chicken pizza.
Extra protein. I gotta ask now another fan question. They love this. They always bring it up to me and stuff. Even during Brett, you see this as well. I gotta ask you, who is your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Oh man,
put you on the spot.
How many is that again? That's 5?
I believe 4.
4, okay.
Yeah, I think Brett said 4. Brett's 5. Brett's Brett. He could do whatever.
Brett can add his own Mount Rushmore. Exactly. He add himself. I'd put, you know, and it's not even like I'm just saying Canadians, but I just love Canadian wrestling. Chris Benoit would have to be up there. Legendary. If you separate, you know, the person from the art and that sort of thing. Chris Benoit, absolutely.
One of the best to do it.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson.
Oh, yes.
Have to put him up there. Nigel McGuinness.
Okay.
So
all
intense.
technical. You're giving me technical
I
guys right
know.
now. You're getting so technical.
And like Chris Jericho.
Jericho, yes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, typical people always say this. This is their typical thing now. They say Hogan, Flair, Rock, Austin, or Andre the Giant. They add in there. It's your typical whatever.
If I could chisel in another guy, it would be Ric Flair.
Yeah, like, recently, did you also see as well, Hogan got booed?
Yeah.
He got booed. I just think it's like a whole, Bret Hart's loving that. But I mean, it's like the whole thing of like, I don't know. I think it's just maybe the newer generation that's quite frankly maybe sick. I wouldn't say sick, but it's just like, like you're like stop coming to always like these like, I don't know. It's hard to say, but then there's always like, I suppose he goes on podcasts, he rips on certain wrestlers, and some, I guess the younger generation doesn't like that or whatever it may be. Like Bret Hart, like there's certain people that don't like Hogan for whatever it is, right? But obviously I got to say pioneer wise, if there's like, like Marvel, like Thanos, he's him. Like you cannot say there's no wrestling without him. Like, McMahon, there's no McMahon without, like there's no wrestling without McMahon. You said Benoit as well. Great thing you said there as well. Like you can't really look at whatever the personal life, that's your personal life. But as in what they did in their craft, you can't really, you can't take away from that. Like he was one of the best to do it. Like McMahon, I don't care what he does. Like he could jump off this, I don't care what he does. But it's like, the reason why we're even here right now and like just wrestling this and that, like Vince McMahon, it's like, like he's like the founder, just like in general, like wrestling, like, we grew up on, like I grew up on, like you gotta give kudos to Vince McMahon. It's like, it's just like that. Like I gotta say, my Mount Rushmore, if I could pick you mine, like Brett, bias. I mean, not Brett. I think Brett, like perhaps I could say like no, Stone Cold for me. I say perhaps maybe like Hogan and Flair. As cliche as it sounds, I had Brett there because Brett's my favorite. Perhaps he's a top 10, but it is what it is. Now, winding down to this now, Bryce, I gotta say first, thank you so much for coming again. Always a pleasure. Now, we went down the rabbit hole for sure. We're gonna do it again, but I gotta say now, last question. When it's all said and done, what do you want the fans to remember the young Lion as?
Just someone who tried their best. I think that goes a long way. Just someone who gave it their all.
That's it.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better.
Pretty short.
Good luck in Japan. All the best, guys. Just look at him right now, guys. You might not be the same again. He's going to come back as a superstar. The young Lion, Bryce Hansen here, guys. Take care.